Welcome to the Empathic Mastery Show. I'm your host, Jennifer Moore, and I'm so glad you're here. This is a place where we talk about what it means to be highly sensitive and empathic, how this impacts all aspects of our lives, and we explore tools, resources, and solutions so we can shift from absorbing all the thoughts, feelings, and energy of the world around us to being beacons for calm, love, and healing. Hey there, everybody. I am so delighted to be bringing my next guest on, Jason Medlock. We've been actually going back and forth a little bit to get him into the chair and to have him here because I got to be on his podcast a while ago, and Jason's energy is so enthusiastic, is so warm, and is so infectious that I was like, I have to bring you on the show. And he's also really, really magical and woo. So he totally fits here. As a quantum healing hypnotist, mindset performance coach, and energy healer, among other roles, Jason Medlock provides a unique exploration of various spiritual modalities. With a profound understanding of human potential and a passion for empowering others, he has dedicated his career to helping business owners, athletes, and everyday working individuals become exceptional leaders capable of achieving their goals with unwavering confidence. His groundbreaking book, Empowered by Consciousness, which was released in October of 2023, is a transformative manual for self-discovery and personal development that simplifies complex concepts and offers practical techniques for their application. And you can find the link to the book in the show notes. It serves as a roadmap to transformation, offering a unique perspective on our ability to shape our reality. This insightful and transformative work serves as a valuable companion for those seeking deeper self-awareness and personal growth. His goal is to encourage others to find their spiritual paths and to help them expand their thought processes, unlock their potential, and create a fulfilling life. Jason's journey is one of wisdom, aspiring to influence others to live authentically and in alignment with their desired lives. Jason, welcome. I am so thrilled that you are here.
Jen, I'm happy to be here. And I can remember the last time we were on my show and I read your bio and you did so awesome. I think I stumbled a few times when I was reading yours, but you did so awesome. And thank you for that introduction. And I cannot express how happy I am to be here and to just really talk some magical stuff with you.
I can't wait. And one of the things we're going to be talking about, you guys, is QHHT, quantum healing hypnosis technique that was created by the amazing, now on the other side, teacher and practitioner Dolores Cannon, which it was Jason who turned me on to her. And then I'm like, I have to learn this. So I actually went ahead and studied it myself because it's so powerful.
Yes.
And so we're going to be talking about like past life stuff. We're going to be talking about hypnosis. We're going to be talking about healing techniques. We're going to be talking about even like the illusion of life and how we get so caught up in all these things. But before we go into all the things, Jason, I always love to start at the beginning. Talk to me about you. Talk to me about what it was like to be a kid, to be a sensitive person. Did you know you were super sensitive or that you were magical or an empath or intuitive or however you define it when you were really little? Like, when did you start like getting the shine?
Well, at 9 years old, I'm not writing the book. I was curious. I was in church playing with toys, playing with action figures, and just never really could figure out where was he, where was God. And we did a lot of praying and sitting up and standing down. But I was just wondering where he was. So I was very, very inquisitive. And I would ask my sister and my mom 1,000 questions. Where is God? Who is God? Why didn't we see him today at church? Well, God is a spirit. Okay, at some point I know I'm gonna see him. So just really, really trying to come to grips with, my whole, being and just being in church. I grew up Methodist, and I believe in God, but I just didn't see him at an early age. I was wondering, where are you? But, as I grew, was able to move into college, my sister introduced me to the affirmation of faith, sort of like, daily affirmations. And I was saying these affirmations and saying the affirmations over and over. And I led the team in tackles. I set a school record in tackles. And I was on the honor roll, dean's list. I'm like, okay, this is working. Okay. And then I'm like, okay, well, she's only giving me these words. But that was my first introduction into using metaphysics and then being, involved with metaphysics. So after that, my sister she was guiding me, and we moved years later. She introduced me to The Secret. And I know
Mm-hmm.
we all have seen The Secret. And I'm like, wow, vision boards, law of attraction, and, just the whole understanding of metaphysics. And I was just hooked. So from then on out, we would do vision boards every year. And I would, do my vision board, and most of it would come to fruition. And I'm like,
Wow.
man, am I,
Yeah.
what kind of gift do I have? Or is it just that I'm using these modalities to actually work in my favor? And
Yeah.
then COVID-19 hit, which forced me to spend more time with me.
Yeah.
And that's when the spiritual awakening happened. And Jen, I gotta tell you, the first book I read was Elizabeth Womack's The Lessons of the 12 Archangels. It just completely changed my life. It pierced my soul, and it
Mm-hmm.
moved me towards bringing in a spiritual coach. And then from there, is the rest was history. I mean,
Yeah.
I know I can go on and on about my journey and out of body experiences that I experienced, and trying to get to the Akashic records one night. And I ended up in the corner of my room at the top ceiling, staring at my body sleep. So there were a lot of different
It sounds
things.
like you took a detour from the record halls or didn't quite
I,
get
you
there.
know, Bob Monroe, Far Journeys, Journey to the Far Side. I mean, I read both of those books, and I was so just amazed with out of body experience. But I kept trying and trying and trying, and it never worked for me.
Yeah.
And Erin Pavlin's book, she has a book on how to leave the body. And I read her book, and I got a better understanding. And from her book, I'm like, oh, I get it. I have to go backwards. And now I need to learn how to meditate. So I went backwards and then started to incorporate meditation into my daily, and got really, really good at it, as a matter of fact, because, obviously when you're trying to induce an OBE, you need to have a level of stillness, level of peace, and not sleep, but awake, but
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
still very, very still. And I learned how to do that. That is not how I got out the body. I got out the body trying to visit the Akashic record.
Mm-hmm.
And I was listening to a YouTube video one night, and I was, going through all the steps to go to the Akashic records and find out, my vibratory string, and, all these lives that I've lived and what's my path. And the next thing you know, I felt my entire body start up like a car engine, like a lawnmower was being pulled. It was just trembling all over. And I remembered all the techniques that I learned in Bob Monroe's book and in Erin Pavlin's book. And what I did was I used the rope technique, and I pulled myself out the body. And next thing you know, I was in the corner of the ceiling, and I went through the house and, floated around. And by remote, always said, once you get out of the body and you experience whatever you experience, go back and write it down as
Mm-hmm.
soon as you come back, so that you
Yeah.
can match it and make sure it wasn't a lucid dream and that it
Uh-huh.
was real.
Uh-huh.
And I
Mm-hmm.
did that. So from there, I started to just devour information, and got a spiritual guide who helped me. I started to learn the channel. I became a level 3 galactic energy healer. I started to really, really work in the pineal gland field and try to do a lot of research and understand that. I went and got certified as a hypnotherapist, and went and got just like you did, quantum healing hypnosis, and trying to put these modalities together. And I'm a remote viewer, a scientific remote viewer. Then I got another coach and I learned associate remote viewing. But moving all these
What is
modalities
associate
together,
remote viewing?
associate remote viewing is the type of remote viewing that allows you to predict future events.
Oh,
Okay.
wow.
Scientific remote viewing is uncovering objects, uncovering places, things that are unknown to you and unknown to the person who's actually conducting the session. Like, for instance, in my book, Empowered by Consciousness, I do a remote viewing session on Skinwalker Ranch. And if you ever heard of Skinwalker Ranch, all the shows they have on, a lot of them on YouTube now, but they were on A&E, I believe. This series of all these paranormal, unearthly events that were happening on this ranch.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, I did a remote viewing session on the ranch with my remote viewing instructor, scientific remote viewing instructor, Tony Civilale. And he gave me basically a number, an 8-digit number. And the way that you uncover different things, or they'll have a picture of, let's say, a World War III boat, or, a baseball, or the sun or the moon, and it'll be a picture, and they'll give you a 4-digit code. And from that code, it's the same thing you would do as an intuitive, as an empath. You give the code, and your subconscious mind gives you the answer once you draw the ideogram. And
Mm-hmm.
the ideogram is a squiggly line, and you just put your hand on the pencil and you just let it move. And then you touch it with your finger, or you touch it with the pencil. And immediately the subconscious mind will give you an impression, will give you an answer or an idea on exactly what that object is.
Right.
So we go through these different steps in scientific remote viewing. It's just like being a psychic, but it's broken down with scientific steps.
Nice.
So we did a different version of scientific remote viewing because we knew the target. So most of the time you don't know the target. And I was able to see huge tunneling up under the ranch, huge crafts. Didn't know what kind of crafts, but I sketched. It was just huge craft, humanoid type beings. I don't know if they were human or not, but they had 2 arms, legs, humanoid type beings. And I saw a lot of nuclear, the symbol, the nuclear symbol that says do not enter, like the 3 little dot
Yeah, yeah,
things. I saw a lot of those there. And I saw running water. So I detail a lot of this in the book on there's some sort of facility under Skinwalker Ranch. Associate remote viewing I use to predict future events, find people. I write about it in the book. I found a dog in Connecticut. One of my colleagues communicates with animals.
Mm-hmm,
And one of her clients called her and said, "Hey, listen, we've lost our dog." So she says, "Oh, I can feel that he's afraid, but I can't locate him. Let me call Jason. He can use remote viewing to find him." So she called me, and only thing I needed was for the client to send me a picture and send me 4 digits. And she did that. And I used the 4 digits and I did the ideogram, but then I mixed in associate remote viewing with it, and I started rubbing on the photo. And I meditated before that, and I started rubbing on the photo, and then, tell me where this dog is. And she kept rubbing on the photo, and I just started sketching. I sketched a park with a tall fence, with electrical towers, and with people that were sitting out picnicking, with a river or some sort of pond running through the middle. So when I sent the sketch to the lady, she was like, "That's the park down the street. Yeah, those are the towers. We know where that is, but he's not there." So I said, "Okay, let me continue to work." So I continued to work, and I got the impression that he was right by a huge tree.
Mm-hmm.
And I started to sketch the tree, and I still had the fence right there because the fence just kept going and going. She called me back and says, Jason, we found him. I says, I was about to call you and say, hey, I think he's by a tree. She says, no, we found him stuck under a fence, and it was a tree next to the fence.
Uh-huh.
Yes. So that's
Yeah.
associate remote viewing, predicting future events. I've predicted games, NFL, NBA. I learned this trade, this craft from a gentleman who's in Hawaii. He is the top psychic in Hawaii. His name is David Wallace. And David taught me how to associate remote view stocks. I can pretty much at a 46%, 45% clip rate know when a stock is going to go up, down, the outcome of games. He taught me how to do WNBA games. He taught me to look at business decisions that clients may make and to do an associate remote viewing session. And the session will only give you a yes or no answer, sort of like the sway test.
Yes. Yeah. We're
Yeah.
working with
So
a
you get a
pendulum.
yes or no. Exactly. And we're using principles from Russell Targ. He's one of the pioneers of remote viewing. And Russell Targ and associate remote viewing, he created a formula that we use that gives us, if we're under 3.5, then that's a no. If we're over 3.5, and it's a yes. After we go through all these taste, touch, smell, texture, temperature, we go through all these different senses, and we use pictures to actually guide us in the right direction. We use 10 photos, and we pick out these photos in an envelope. And I know I don't want to bore the audience, but we pick these photos out, and then we put them down, and then we sketch, we touch the photos. So we touch the envelopes, and we sketch what we think is in the envelope. In whichever envelope, we open up one envelope and we look at the sketch. Then we open up the other envelope and we look at the sketch. Whichever one is the closest, we rate it. And then we give this one a rating. And then once we get those numbers and we do the calculation, if it's 3.5, hey, that's the one that's a yes. If it's lower than that, then that's a no. But David Wallace, outstanding psychic. He's a remote viewer. He's a medical remote viewer. He taught me how to predict things using associate remote viewing. So yeah, it's absolutely wonderful.
Sounds amazing. I'm like, oh my God, you're telling me about something else I'm going to need to go and study. I want to go back to something because
Yeah, sure.
there is something you said that kind of like, I'm like thinking it sort of tickled my brain about how you kind of like the veil or your energy body was pierced right around the time of the pandemic. And I know that for a lot of people, going from ordinary life to magical life can be a bit of a transition. Like it can be kind of an interesting thing. I'm curious, what was it like for you? Were you already leaning towards the spirit? Like you said, you had a spiritual awakening. So I'm sort of imagining like you kind of like were asleep and then you woke up. What was it like for you to embrace this identity? And how did the people around you respond to all of a sudden Jason is talking about remote viewing and past life regression? And like, how is it for you, especially like
Well,
as a man in this culture?
well, at first, I was introduced to The Secret. So I
Yeah.
was already dabbling in the law of attraction and vision boarding. So I knew that if you put your mind to something, then, it attracts to you. I knew about vibration. I was already a UFO guy, look, documentary guy. I was already knowing that, there was more to it. So I was already a part of that group,
So
but
you
I
so you didn't
never
exactly have a spiritual awakening at the pandemic
well, I
as much
did.
as it's like you came to another level of spiritual awakening. Like you were already more awake than the
Oh, I was
average bear.
already there as far as I was woke. But the
Yeah.
spiritual awakening actually did happen during the pandemic when I started to, so I was already woke and people were fine with me then. And I was a construction executive and it was okay to, do all that. When the pandemic happened and I started moving more towards within, it's one day I'm looking at documentaries. I'm a documentary junkie. Elizabeth Womack was speaking on a show. She's been interviewed by, I forget her name. I love her. She's on Gaia. I forget her name, but anyway, she was being interviewed, and she talked about the book. And I'm the type that I see an interview. If I hear a podcast and they talk about a book, I go find it on Amazon. I look at it a little bit. I buy it. I read this book and it moved me in directions I did not. I just I thought that everything that the book was talking about, how God, created the galaxy with these vibrant colors, and how, all of these different purple fire, blue and pink, all of these colors that they use in these prayers, and how Angel Michael and the Archangel Luther, all these archangels, how they played a part in creating the earth, and all the prayers that she talked about, and the way the book, it just really, really moved me to a place where I was trying to change my life. I did, simultaneously, I wanted nothing to do with being in corporate America anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So I slowly moved myself out of that. I'm no longer in it. I started to explore a lot of things with consciousness versus UFO study, and we're not alone and stuff like that. I moved more towards consciousness and love, unconditional love, light, the beautiful essence of transcending with transcendental meditation, just trying to figure out myself and how I could hear. I could actually hear my higher self speaking once I was able to embrace love and light, because we're made of light and sound, and love is at the center of everything. So the awakening was happening in that vein. And I did not, and I was talking about this to different people, and my circle got smaller and smaller and smaller. And it's just like you said, Jen, people were like, what in the world is he talking about? So when I was talking about UFOs, and I was really knowledgeable, yeah, the base is on the moon, and yeah, Mars, it has an atmosphere. You're right. Once I started talking about love and light and consciousness and dimensions, the Alchemy of Nine Dimensions by Barbara Hand Claw, and just different books, Angel Words by Doreen Virtue, and how to speak in high vibration all the time, people started looking at me differently. And I did not care. So my circle got very, very small, including family. That one got real small.
I think especially family. They seem
especially family.
They are often
if
our
you
biggest critics. Yeah.
There are some people in your family that really, really will turn on you the closer you get to God, but they want you to get to God the way they got to God through church and and I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that.
No.
But I was aware of God in church. I believe in God, but now I figured out I could speak to him one-on-one through, some people say prayer. I do it through meditation. I do it through my chakras. I do it through the crown chakra, moving all the way down to the heart chakra, then walking down a long corridor, and then opening up the door and sitting on this illuminated bench, and then calling out, can you connect? I am here. And that's another meditation I'll talk to you about later on in the show. So I was going through it, and, all these different modalities started to pop up. Oh, you need to do this. You need to learn how to remote view. You need to learn how to have an out-of-body experience. I mean, I left my body more than once. I mean, I've flown over the Florida Keys. I've gone some places. I've flown in my neighborhood, over my house. And when I started to talk about that stuff, my circle got real small, and people thought that, oh my God, what's going on with Jason? The only person that really stuck by me was my sister, and she was sort of my spiritual mentor until I found a spiritual teacher. But yeah, Jen, my circle got real small after reading Elizabeth Womack's book, The 12 Archangels, which is a brilliant. I read that book maybe. I was reading it biannually. After I finished it the second time, I started reading it biannually. And it's
And how
just
do you spell
really,
her
really,
name? Because I just tried.
yeah, I think it's Elizabeth, Elizabeth, Womack.
Mhm. Is it M-O-C? So I looked up Elizabeth Womack, M-A-C-K, and a whole bunch of, I found a bunch
Look for
of like
the
conventional people, but I was
look for
wondering,
the 12 archangels.
the 12 archangels. Okay.
Yes. Lessons from the 12 archangels. That's the name
Lessons
of the
from the
book.
12 archangels. Okay. Thank
Yes,
you.
yes, yeah,
So,
yes.
because that certainly sounds, I'm imagining that there are a bunch of people who are listening right now who are like, I need to check out this book.
And I quoted her several times in my book. That book has such an impact on me. When I started quantum healing hypnosis, a
Oh,
lot of
it's
the
actually
principles that
Belinda Womack. That's why.
I'm sorry, Belinda Womack. I am so sorry.
Yeah. I'm like, you do exactly what I do. I don't know if this is
We've read
exactly
so
what
many
this.
books.
Well, not only that, I don't know about you, but there's vibrational names that remind me of each other, but they don't have to
Yes,
sound at all alike. And so, like, for example, the name Rachel and the name Stephanie link up for me. So I wonder if for
right.
you, like Belinda and Elizabeth, which also the L and the B, like I totally get it. Like that's the kind of thing that I tend to do is I think in terms of energy signature of a name, not necessarily the actual sound of the name. So
And what's so interesting about reading a lot of different books and connecting all these modalities, they all have certain ingredients that you have to perform to move into that space.
yeah. So let's talk
If
about
you
those
are
certain
a
ingredients.
psychic, well, grounding, meditating, or yoga, or whatever you use to move your brainwave states to different levels, and then being able to decipher from the conscious mind and the subconscious mind. Because there are two people. I'm not people. There are two entities that compete with each other, and the more you are in this beautiful space in transcendental meditation, I'm a TMer. I
Mhm.
meditate twice a day, 20 minutes. So the more I transcend lower and lower and just be there in peace, I can always tell when the conscious mind is speaking and when the subconscious mind is speaking. And this is very, very critical when you're using scientific or associate remote viewing. Because when you hit the ideogram or when you touch the page, the low line piece of information always comes right then in 1.3 seconds, 1.4 seconds. That's the answer. After that, the conscious mind answers for you.
Yes, the ego
Thank
starts
you.
to get in the way.
The
I have
ego gets in the way.
I have
And I
seen
came
this.
face to face with my ego after I took psychedelics too. We'll talk about that as well.
I have had that experience. It's interesting. I facilitate Akashic record work with people at times. And one of the things I've noticed is I can see the answer drop in for them because I take people to the halls and I teach them how to read their records. And I can see them seeing things. And then I see the doubt come in. And it's like, I've actually gotten into the habit of teaching my students to just guess because I believe that, like, if you guess, you're going to get the answer because you don't like guessing frees it up. So it's not that like you're just guessing, but it's like
Right.
that the subconscious gives us that answer instantly. And then it's all of the second
Instantly.
guessing and the thinking and the, oh, did I really have that thought? You know, so
You
yeah,
know this. The left side of the brain wants to know the right answer,
yes,
wants to be on time, wants to know why, wants to say, "Oh, I'm waiting on you to hypnotize me." The
yeah.
left side of the brain, the memories, the pictures,
Hmm.
the creative side. So we have to weaken the conscious mind, which is most of the left side of the brain. We have to weaken it. And the way you weaken it is through quiet time, through meditation, through yoga, through whatever modality you use with mindfulness, whatever you're using to move yourself into a lower state of beta,
Hmm. Hmm.
sambulistic as
Yeah,
well, and
yeah.
sit there in peace and contemplate. And when you have thoughts that come in, let them be.
Yeah.
Let them
Yeah.
be. Because if you want to remove them, we'd never remove thoughts. We can kind of make them softer just by using a mantra. And we soften those thoughts up and they would just slowly fade. But the thoughts, when they originally come, while you're trying to move into this space, into this peace, they can be construed as stress being relieved. And that's how we're taught in Transcendental, that the thoughts come, that means that stress is being relieved. But as you keep going, use the mantra to smooth them out and continue on your journey. So the left side of the brain, the conscious mind, so to speak, can be very powerful. And that's why in quantum healing hypnosis, you have to keep talking to the client, keep talking to them, get them comfortable. It will never work for you until they're comfortable, until
Yes.
they're trusting you. And
Yes.
you know that lingo. And it's just fabulous. We can go a lot of different directions with this.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I love how, so going back to talking about just the fact that you embraced these amazing things and you started being able to, like, you really said yes to all these things and your world got narrower or your community got narrower. I'm sort of imagining that that was temporary because now you have this podcast and you have this spiritual community. So I'm kind of imagining like it got narrower and then it expanded.
It got narrower until I just continued to talk about it. And then people start saying, okay, Medlock. They call me Medlock. Okay, Jason. Okay, talk to me about what you're talking about. And it's like, I'm not a pastor. I'm not talking about religion.
Yeah.
I'm just talking about, wow, the relationship you can have with yourself is incredible.
Incredible.
You must try it. Yeah. And that's the only thing. And when people started to really hear me, because everybody is very, very protective of their religion.
Yeah.
Jen, you're not talking about religion ever on your show. We're not talking about that. We're only talking about these beautiful modalities that we all are able to access. And one thing I forgot, the reason why for myself and probably for a lot of men and maybe some women, it's the emotions. We will not. Our emotions are so balled up and so tough. We were grown up to be, you be tough and you don't cry. When you playing football, it's about being a man out here. And you need to be a man to take care of your family, and your emotions are not realized.
Right.
And I learned that I wasn't getting nowhere with meditation. I was getting nowhere with a lot of different things until I had the spiritual breakthrough. And I started to allow myself to feel and to love. Not to say I couldn't love people, but to love unconditionally. You know, and just to, if someone had a problem and I'm listening to them, yeah, okay, well, yeah, okay, cool. I have an answer for you. Now, when they're talking to me, I try to move into their chakras and feel, understand. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I get it now.
Yeah.
Really feel what they're feeling. And that allowed me to move at a light speed pace, all the different modalities I was learning. So because I gave up this steel curtain as a man and started to allow myself to feel. But all these friends came back. I did the podcast, didn't care who saw it, didn't care who was like, what is he doing? And after season 3, we're going to move into season 4 here pretty soon. People starting to get used to it, and they're starting, hey, man, I saw your show. Hey, you know what? That's real. That's true. The subconscious mind, sometimes they're excited about it. You know what I mean? So, yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
Yes.
I'm in season 3. I had sort of a kind of like a Mach 1 season 1. So I've done 2 season 1s, but the first season 1 doesn't really count. So I'm in season 3 and I'm only now, like, people are now starting to come back. Oh my God, I listened to this episode and I heard this thing.
Yes.
But it's like, it takes a while for people to like catch on and just be like, listening to this stuff for sure. Yeah.
It does. It takes a while.
It does. It really does. And it takes a while for people to get comfortable with spiritual concepts. I mean, in a
Mm-hmm.
way, it's like, and what you said, I think this bears repeating. You just kept talking about it. I think so often as sensitive people, as intuitive people, as magically oriented or spiritually oriented people, we hide our light under under a bushel. We keep silent. We think like, oh, people are going to think I'm really weird if I talk about this, so I'm just going to like I'll keep this to myself. But it's like you said, if you talk about it enough, people start coming out of the woodwork. People start saying, oh, yeah, I had that experience when I was 9. This happened to me. And
I,
like a lot more of us are oriented this way than I think we realize.
I can tell you how it happened with a few people, and I see it more and more. They'll start
Yeah.
off by saying, I had this dream.
Mm.
Man, I had this dream. And then they'll just talk. And I'm like, oh, well, your dreams are real. Your higher self, your subconscious mind will never, puts dreams in your thoughts. You don't just dream on your own. Dreams are placed there for a reason. And I would tell my friends that, and they would talk about these dreams. I said, well, possibly that it's not possible that did happen. And maybe it happened in a parallel life, has already happened, or is happening right now. So pay close attention to your dreams. And then also have a dream diary and write down every dream you have, because your higher self is trying to send you a message. They're putting this dream before you so that you can make a decision at some point in the current lifetime.
Yeah. I get such precise information in my dreams. Like a couple weeks ago, I broke out in what I thought was poison ivy, but only on my torso and only in a couple little patches, but it was pretty uncomfortable. And I had this vivid dream, like a couple days later or a day or two later, about chickenpox. I didn't really think much about it until I suddenly realized, started looking at or discovered that shingles and chickenpox look almost identical. And
Mhm.
not chickenpox, shingles and poison ivy rashes look almost identical. And I was like, oh, this is that. And shingles are related to chickenpox. And so it was like, I will have these dreams where my subconscious will give me clues about something that's going on, or like very precise information. And it's amazing, if we pay attention
But
to our dreams, what our dreams will show us and teach us. It's incredible.
Jen, very
Yeah.
precise information, Jen. And I'm glad you said that, because I'm almost done. And I'm ashamed to say this, with my certification for Soul Speak. And that's with Julia Cannon.
With Julia Cannon.
And
Yes.
if you study Julia's book and
Yes.
all the work that Dolores has done, Dolores has gotten the answer to every illness that man can think of. And Julia is already a nurse. So she put these in chronological order with, not chronological order, but she put these in order with the illnesses, and then she
Yeah.
then wrote the response. And it reminded me of what you just said. So skin irritation, and I don't know about heart, but it's a message.
Mm-hmm.
We just have to look it up in her, and I have the book, but it's a message. Everything that happens to us, whether it be cancer, we know that it's hate of self, hate of someone. We
Yeah.
know that what's the right here?
Thymus or thyroid, or
The thyroid. The
yeah, the
thyroid
thyroid.
is
Yeah.
the person who doesn't feel they have a voice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So we know the different, and that's how we diagnose our clients. And then this, we diagnose our clients, and we was like, okay, feels like they don't have a voice because they have thyroid issues. So now I kind of know, when I go back, and I know we're going to talk about this a little later, when I move them through the different past lives, I'm listening closely on what's going on, and I'm asking the
Yeah.
right questions. So, messages, our higher self will always give us the message, whether it's a car wreck, whether it's I hit my knee on the table, whether it's some sort of disease. These items manifest in our current lifetime as what I just mentioned: wrecks, diseases, whatever. There are messages, and like Dolores says, the messages that we told our spirit guides, or the people who are working with us while we were incarnated, hey, if I go too far right, if I go too far left, send me a message. And that's what we're
Exactly.
getting.
And that's one of the things that I also have a copy of Soul Speak and have listened to Julia's book, and that is clearly one of
She
the
has a
things.
certification on that too.
Oh yeah. That's one of the things that I noticed with like that almost always, and I know this for myself, that almost always when a health situation comes up, it is a correction. Like it's a correction to the direction that I'm going in. And sometimes it's hey, you're going in the wrong direction. You need to recalibrate. Sometimes it feels to me like it's like a balancing or a correction in the sense of this is something that's been in you or your body has had for a while. And now we're just going to let it precipitate up and out to shift. In the case, I believe, of the shingles, I had been doing some work with some antiviral stuff. And all of a sudden, it's like this virus that's been living in my system since I was like 8 years old and got shingles. All of a sudden, it's like, or not shingles, chickenpox. All of a sudden, it's like the virus is just like precipitating up and out. But I think that so often health things are our body's way of trying to right things, our body's way of trying to correct things. And this kind of leads to what you and I were sort of talking about before, but just like the long story of the soul, that, the fact that this life is just one part of something so much greater.
And if I had to diagnose it right now, anything that's an irritant, anything that's eczema, shingles, chicken pox, an expression of the skin, probably you were burned in a different lifetime.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, you and I
Yes.
were talking about that before. Absolutely.
Yes.
Like, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so that's not something that's required for this particular lifetime. So if we ever get together and do a session, I would ask for that to be removed because it's not required.
It is not required.
Why does Jen need this?
Right. Well, I honestly believe in this case, it is something very old that is clearing. Like it just feels like it's just like, yep, it's clearing. It's moving out. It's done its job, and now it's time to let go. We've got
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Jen.
I was just going to say we've got about like 20 minutes before we hit the absolute. We hit that sort of like 60-minute mark. And I definitely want to talk about like past life stuff with you. And
let's do it because we're gonna have to do part 3 on my show.
I think we are.
Get
I
you
think
back
you
on.
and I. Well, and I was thinking like you and I, and then maybe like you and I do part 3 on your show, and then we do part 4 on mine because we could talk.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about past life stuff.
All right. Past life regression. The way I learned past life regression, before I even started with quantum healing hypnosis, I learned meditative past life regression. And my spiritual teacher, Chloe Moores, she taught me. She would take me through a deep meditation. It would be guided. And it's the same as a hypnosis session.
Yeah.
But she was like,
between guided meditation and hypnosis, in my experience.
Fine line.
Fine line.
And she told me, I don't like hypnosis. I'm gonna do a guided meditation. And now that I'm so proficient at hypnosis now, I'm like, I think that was a guided meditation. A hypnosis session she did.
Exactly.
But she got me calm, and we recorded this, and she moved me, just moving me through this soothing conversation, visualization, having me visualize certain things. And then she said, now we're going to talk about the places that you've been and where you are right now. And tell me what you see. Sort of like our deal. Mm-hmm. And the first experience I had when I was under regression was I was laying, and I write about this in the book, I was laying in the back of a wagon. I was a white lady with red hair, and I was pregnant. I was having a baby, and it looked like in the Western time. So it was, I'm a brother. So I'm thinking, I'm laying there, I'm like, oh, I'm having a baby. And I could feel the bumps and everything. And then she moved me from that space. And then I saw a tiger. standing on top of rocks overlooking a valley. And I guess I was an animal at that point.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I was a little boy walking. I remember I had on some raggedy clothes. The streets were pretty much dirt.
Mm.
There were a lot of buggies and carriages going back and forth. I was a white child. My hands were dirty, and someone was holding my hand. I was just walking, looking around at all the horses and the buggies. So my experience on doing past life regression as the regressionee happened through meditative regression, and I did it on a few clients, and it worked. But then, then I was introduced to quantum healing hypnosis,
Yes.
and it's a totally different ball game than meditative
Yes.
regression. A
Mm-hmm.
totally different ball game.
Yeah. Yeah.
Past life regression helps us figure out which lifetime that's causing the current problem in this current lifetime. Someone may come to you and they're overweight. Someone may be depressed about this or anxiety or what have you. We use past life regression in quantum healing hypnosis to figure out what or which lifetime did these issues arise. It may have arisen in the current lifetime sometimes, and I would get frustrated trying to perform past life regression as a level 1. I would get frustrated because all of my patients were regressed to the same lifetime.
Mm.
It's because the subconscious mind, the higher self, that's where they want you to go.
Right.
They will never send you anywhere else outside of what's for the greater good of the particular of the person that they're protecting.
Yes.
So the past life regression therapy is very, very helpful, because when you move the client all the way down from middle theta to deep theta to simulistic state, and then you move them off the cloud, and then you drop them off the cloud, and then they're there. And then you move through the past lives. Do you have are you a boy or a girl? Do you have hands? We ask our clients all kind of different things so they can realize themselves, because the only thing that's keeping them awake is your voice.
Right. Right.
So once we are asking, you have to ask a lot of questions when you're doing past life regression, because you have to paint the picture. You have to have the client continuously answer your questions so you can create the scene, so you can create the movie. And once they're able to do that, and then you can, where's your daughter? If you were sitting right here, who would be eating with you? It would be my mom and my dad, and it would be, my sister. Well, tell me about your dad.
Yeah.
Is he tall? Is he short? Oh, he's tall. What kind of pants is he wearing? The more we do this with our past life regression clients, the deeper we move them into that particular life.
Yes. Yes.
And then as they go on, and as they go on, we start to get the characteristics. And I don't like my brother. He teases me. Well, why does he tease you? He says I'm stumpy. What does stumpy mean? Does that mean that you're shorter than him? No, I weigh more than him. We have clue number 1. We write that down.
Yeah.
So we use past life regression to figure out what's ailing the client in the current lifetime. Now, sometimes we may not get it. We may move into 1, 2, 3 lives, and there are a few things there, but we may not get it. And that's when we bring them from those different lifetimes, wishing the beings that we were speaking to peace, and allowing them to recede back to where they are. They will be fine. And we then move immediately to the subconscious mind. And we try to pull the answers that we need after we've done the regression therapy. We try to get those answers from the subconscious mind.
Right.
And people may be saying this, listening, well, what do you mean the subconscious mind? Well, the subconscious mind is source. Basically, it's your higher self.
Well, and this is the
And
term
it's
that
just
Dolores uses, particularly. She
this is
calls the SC,
this is the
whereas some people might call it the collective unconscious,
Unconscious mind, subconscious
right.
mind, collective, God,
Like God,
uh,
exactly. The Holy Spirit.
and exactly.
Yeah.
And let's just talk about it. Once we finish the regression therapy portion of it, and when you say, we know that you take care of Jennifer, and we know that you're responsible for Jennifer, and you know everything that's ever happened in Jennifer's life, and we respect that. Can I ask you a few questions, please? And clients, when you hear the yes, are you sure I can ask you a few questions? Because I know how protective you are, Jennifer. Yes. And then we get through all that stuff, and then we finally start to ask the questions. And we typically try to get the body scan done for the clients first, and there are a lot of different meditations where you can do a body scan. And that it's a certain meditation that helps you focus on certain part of the body. But when we do a body scan in quantum healing hypnosis, we're looking for disease. We're looking for anything that might be out of order with the body. And because the subconscious mind is so brilliant, source is so brilliant, they'll do the scan. And like Dolores taught us, are you done yet? Did you find anything? Still working. We're still working on it.
Right.
Yeah, we
right.
found something. So we go through all of that. And then once that's happening, or while it's happening, you move through the questions. And I'm still trying to figure out, why is David having anger issues and frightening his wife? And so so once I go through the scan, and may I ask a few questions, and I'll come back to that when, I moved David 2 lifetimes. Why did you show him those lifetimes? And you'll get why he showed it. Subconscious mind will tell you, why is David so angry? I couldn't find a lot of information there. David has been having these anger moments with his wife, and you'll start to get the answer. If they say, I don't know, then you don't have the client that deep, because a client should never say I. They never speak in the first person. It always has to be in third person. We, so we use regression therapy to, quite frankly, identify the current life issue.
Right.
And we typically can get it there. And if we can't, we will then bring that question forth. Once we bring the subconscious mind, the higher self out, and get it answered there. And typically we get the answer that we're looking for.
It also seems to me that working with the past life regression stuff allows us to go deep enough that it kind of primes the pump for the subconscious to speak. Jason, I told you I was going to come to this place in the conversation where I was going to say to you, oh my God, I cannot believe how fast the time has gone by, and we're there.
I know. I know. You and I vibe so well.
Oh my God. And you and I could talk. I mean, we could talk.
Yes.
I always want to be sure to ask you if there's anything that you totally want to be sure you say before we end this conversation.
Well, I'd like people to explore Empowered by Consciousness.
Yeah.
They can go to my website, jasonmedlock.com/the book, the dash book. And,
and that'll be in the show notes, guys.
It'll be in the show notes.
Yeah.
But more importantly, explore yourself. And the message I want to leave with everybody is mindfulness. If you start with mindfulness, that will take you a long way as you try to identify different problems or issues or things that are not going right in your life. It'll help you get there much quicker if you start off with mindfulness. And you may say, well, what is mindfulness? Mindfulness is noticing the little things about yourself, about things in the room, about the curvature on the couch, just the little things that are in your everyday life. Start to pay attention with great detail. In your meditations, start to really, really feel the air on your arms, and rubbing your fingers together very, very gently until you can feel the grooves in your fingers, putting your feet on the floor and wiggling your toes until you can feel all the toes wiggle. And that's mindfulness. And that's
Mm-hmm.
building the muscle of realizing. And once you do that, then you can kind of diagnose the issues that you're having because you're able to realize it in such a profound way. So I want to leave that ground floor ingredient that you may need to help you live a better life.
Awesome. The word
Yes.
heartfulness came to my mind too, like the living in our heart and that mindfulness, that dance of just like that. It's not egofulness, it's mindfulness, it's that awareness. So, Jason, I always love to do a little bit of time travel at the end of each episode because I truly
Sure.
believe that podcasts exist outside of time. We record them, they are
Yes.
listened for years and years and years to come. And I sort of think of the broadcast and the recording as like we're dropping a rock or a boulder sometimes in the river of time, and it ripples both ways. It's going to keep going forward into the future, but it's also going back and broadcasting to earlier times. And so
Yes.
I believe we can and will send a message back or touch a message back to a younger part of you. And so what I always love to ask is, when are we going back to? Who are we going back to? And what is the message? Not what would you say, but specifically, if you were speaking directly to young Jason, like this is your chance to talk to him, what will you tell him?
Jason, pay more attention to the inside. Spend more time understanding the peace that's within you. Understand this. The outside world is a construct, your imagination. The inside world is where it really, really starts to make sense. Pay attention to the way you feel. Pay attention to all the little things that are happening inside of you. And once you do that, you'll be able to manifest, you'll be able to bring anything that you want into your life as long as it's for the greater good of all.
And what time frame are we sending this back to? How old
We're
is
gonna
this
send this,
Jason?
we're gonna send this back to 30-year-old Jason.
Nice, nice.
Yes.
I was also imagining 9-year-old Jason is looking for God everywhere. And just thinking, it's so sad that our culture has gotten to this idea of like the guy in the sky, like this, sort of like the idea of God is separate from us. Because really, what if we
Yes.
were taught like God, this is God, like God is everywhere, God is everything, and yet it's like, I mean, as a 9-year-old, you're like, where is the dude?
The basis of Belinda Womack's book, The 12 Archangels, is this is an experiment. And
Yeah.
God wants to see if we believe that we're separate. Because when we incarnate, we then move into a world where they value time. And
Hmm.
time gives the illusion of separation,
Right.
that we're separate from source, from oneness. So
Hmm.
when you said separation, that immediately came to my head. But
Yeah.
the key is, can the goal is, can these souls, while they're incarnated in these avatars, find their way back to oneness
Right
with the
on.
illusion of time looming within this construct, this third dimensional construct.
Absolutely. Jason, I could
Yes,
talk with you for hours. I
I
could
know.
talk with you forever. You and I are definitely, I don't know, you're a brother from another mother. Um,
Exactly.
yeah. And I'm a sister from another mister. Final question, and you mentioned this, but let's repeat it. How do people get in touch with you?
Just go to www.jasonmedlock.com. You can get me there. Phone numbers are there, emails. I have all kind of courses on my website. I just finished a 7-day boot camp, a mindset boot camp for those of you who are really trying to just take the next step. Tired of being frustrated, tired of starting something and you never finish it. This promotion I was going to get on my job, they put somebody else in there in front of me. Why did that happen? It's because of your mindset.
Yeah.
It's because of how you look at things. So I have a 7-day course on there. Just a lot of different things that will have some free hypnosis sessions that I recorded. And obviously, I did this Crystalline River recording. I re-recorded Dolores's, the one that she has in the back of our packet. I re-recorded that, and it's on there for healing.
Awesome.
And I have another Elevate Your Mindset hypnosis audio, a script I put together. So there's some freebies on there too. But www.jasonmedlock.com, go for it. You can find me.
Perfect. Okay, guys, www.jasonmedlock.com and check out his podcast.
Expansion of Consciousness, at Expansion of Consciousness on YouTube. So,
at Expansion of Consciousness on YouTube. And check out the wisdom that this man is dropping. Jason, thank you so much for being part of this. Thank you so much for this rich, just juicy conversation. This was awesome.
And it will be a part 3, and we'll be on my show, Jen. And I want to thank you for having me on. And when the last time you called, you was like, "Hey, you gonna come on?" I'm like, "Oh, I'm in the middle of trying to get this book done and all this stuff." But you were patient, and I enjoyed it. And we'll start tag teaming each other, every other month, every quarter, whatever it takes, because we both have a lot to say, and it's important that people hear us.
Right on. I hope that you just keep on thriving, keep on doing the amazing work you're doing. Thank you for being you.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
As we come to the end of this episode, I'd love to hear what you're taking from this show. Please jump over to empathicmasteryshow.com to leave your comments. In the show notes, you'll find a link to grab your copy of my Empathic Safety Guide, 3 Basics for Finding Calm in the Eye of the Storm. And while you're there, please subscribe and follow this show. And thank you for your help sharing this show with the people who need it. Please help me to spread the word and send this podcast to friends or family members who need support living as highly sensitive empathic people. Then join me again when the next Empathic Mastery Show airs. Okay, one last time. Hop over to empathicmasteryshow.com for your Empathic Safety Guide. And until next show, shine on. We need you and your gifts here on this planet. So please don't judge your empathic rainbow by colorblind standards.